Talk Speedway. Talk Speedway.
Hello and welcome to the Talk Speedway podcast. Of course, this is part 2 of our AGM Special, and joining us this week is Rye House co-promoter Steve Jenson. Steve, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks very much. Very nice to be asked.
We've got obviously me and Graham. Graham Munsey's the co-host on this podcast. We've got a lot to discuss really from the Premiership side of things, from the AGM really. Obviously a big talking point is the kind of 8-point rule. Steve, obviously you were in the room when kind of these decisions were kind of made. What was the thinking first and foremost behind the 8-point rule?
Yes, I was in the room. And to be honest, us as a club, we are very disappointed with a lot of things that happened. I understand why they brought in this 8-point rule, and it was mainly to do with finances. We've sort of been given a bit of a bombshell around the TV deals, and that still isn't in place. So I'm presuming it wasn't anything to do with Rye House. I've seen myself that we are to blame, but it certainly wasn't anything to do with us. We, as a club, would like to be moving forward and having at least minimum one GP rider in, if not two, back to sort of 6-7 years ago when the Elite League was very strong. We was hoping from last year's AGM, we understood all the cuts that were made then. We were prepared to come in at the lowest cost, and we was hoping that it would go forwards, but unfortunately that hasn't happened this year.
And you mentioned there, Steve, that obviously you'd started looking at maybe a few lineups, looking to get some of these Grand Prix riders back in the UK Speedway. So is that something that has hampered the Rye House team building for next year?
Not for ourselves. We would love, to be honest, we would love one or two GP riders in there. All of our guys, the 7 riders that finished the season with us, know exactly the plans that we wanted to achieve before the AGM, and they also know my plans after. We're just trying to do what we can to make it exciting and to get more people through the gate. That is my only job, really, is to get more people through the gate. And then to do that, I've got to make it look exciting. And at the moment, we're not that excited about it ourselves. We're going to be starting the season looking at making a loss immediately, which is... It's kind of madness, really, in a business sense.
Obviously, with the restrictions that's there, Steve, I mean, does it hamper team building in the sense of that most teams will be kind of strength and depth? There's not a lot of variations in how you can actually build your team, really.
The problem you're going to have is if one team or two teams do get a 9-point rider, they're going to be very weak at 6 and 7, and the teams that building depth are going to have 5-point riders at number 6, and every single rider is capable of scoring points. It's not just down to one rider, as I'm sure you know yourselves. You need to build a team of 7, not of 1.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting sort of quandary it puts team planning into, isn't it? As you mentioned there, do you go for the big hitter and maybe keep yourself a little bit weaker at the bottom, or do you go for that strength and depth? I guess maybe one advantage Rye House has had over the years, we haven't had the National League teams as well, is at the very least, if you have to go maybe slightly weaker at the bottom end, you've got a pool of riders that have ridden Rye House a lot and should still be able to do a job for you.
Yeah, that is one of our problems with Rye House, is everybody likes the track, especially after we done away with the off-camber. You get the opposing team, "Oh, I love your track, can I come next year?" And it's like, oh God. And so it is very difficult. There's a fine line between home advantage and making a nice track. But we did do a few bits last year for the likes of Chris Harris to do his overtaking, and we hope that it made good racing and excitement for the crowd.
Steve, just to go back to last year, first year in the Premiership, step into the Premiership, perhaps maybe a wander into the unknown, really. But you put together a kind of British-based side to kind of attack the Premiership season. Made some changes along the way, but going on my kind of rough research today, I don't do too much, as Graham will tell you. It looked as though you had a very strong end to the 2017 season. I think it was only 4 matches, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, in about 15 that you actually lost. You made a strong push there. Are you happy with the season that you had last year?
Me personally, and the team, and even Warren himself, that team we had at the end, they were absolutely brilliant. They gelled together. It was just, they were unstoppable at home. And they just enjoyed it. That was the main thing. You could just see that there was turning up, there was no moaning, they were laughing and joking. And I've sort of been motocrossing with a couple of them during the season and stuff like that. And we did. And that reflects on the track as well. It's just that team spirit. We did have it at the beginning as well. It was just we were struggling away from home, and it was only a matter of a couple of points here and there to getting that away win point, and that is what you need. At home, we were still fine at the beginning. Yes, I know Swindon beat us at the very, very beginning, but we very quickly collected ourselves, and at home we were fine either way. We just needed to do something away, which is why I'd done the changes that I'd done, and then Christoph Kasperzak came up, and we had to jump on it. It was simple as that. At 5-point average, going in at number 6, and it also makes it interesting for the crowd. At the end of the day, they are the main people, and to try and bring a bit of controversial in it, it also generates interest. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. And you mentioned that there, Steve. Obviously, if we look at the Premiership as a whole and the signings that have been made so far this winter, the one team maybe so far that seems to be catching everyone's imagination is Leicester. Obviously bringing Martin Vasilek and Lucas Piszczek into UK Speedway. Not too dissimilar to what you mentioned there with you guys signing Kasperzak halfway through the season last year. You know, those are the kind of signings that do catch the public's imagination.
Yes, yeah, they want to see the best riders in the top league, which is what we are supposed to be doing. We're representing the UK and the television rights abroad, so it goes all over the world, and we need these names in the sport. It's as simple as that. I believe that us going Mondays or Thursdays, which has now turned out to be Monday, Wednesdays, would have attracted a lot of these riders back, and it is to a bit. But we do need to keep on pushing to get them back over. And yes, unfortunately, it is about finance. And to get the finance, we need the TV deals and we need the people through the gate. And you're sort of in a catch-22 at the moment, where we're struggling with contracts for TV and we're struggling to put exciting teams together. And we've just got to keep pushing. And unfortunately, take some gambles as well, which is not ideal at the moment.
Steve, we're going to take some fan questions later on. We asked guys on Twitter and on Instagram, and we've had a few messages through Facebook as well. So we're going to put them to you later on in the show. But from a fan's point of view, Steve, when the AGM, when all the promoters get together, could you set the scene for us how we get to obviously getting ideas on the table, how they then get discussed, how they then get passed? Because obviously last year we've seen quite a dramatic change with the team building averages and stuff. This season we've got the team building average will be 42.5 for the Premiership. How do all these kind of ideas come to pass? Of course, tactical subs, etc. as well.
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say it, but I'll be honest with you. I'm sure at some point, if I'm not allowed to say it, they'll tell me. It's basically you email in your suggestions and your proposals for a pre-AGM, and then if you've got enough interest in it, then it goes to the main AGM. The ones that you kind of get a feel if one person's proposing something and no one else is in the room is agreeing with it, then it's not going to go to the main AGM. You get a very large, thick pack, which in 3 days you've got to go through each one of them. So the starting gate rule or something. Somebody or 2 or 3 promotions would have mentioned it. How are we going to get around it? What are we going to do? And then sometimes just spend 5-10 minutes on something. Sometimes it's an hour or so. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 days just on one subject. That's basically in a nutshell how it is we all send in our proposals and then it gets talked about it at pre-AGM.
And stepping away maybe slightly from that, obviously you're quite new promoter into yourself. For the non-Rye House fans that are listening, what is your background, Steve? What brought you to Speedway?
Don't know. We was practicing at Rye House go-kart track. We come from British Touring Cars. We started British Touring Cars 6 years ago. I was on other projects before that with Warren Scott. We started the touring cars with one car at the back of the grid. Sometimes we had to push it out of the pits, and it was very, very family oriented. We was a big family group. There was only sort of 10 to 12 of us. I'm not saying we didn't know what we was doing, but we didn't have the right people around us, and it is a big field to get in. And the more people saw how serious we was, that we started getting the right people around us. We've now just this season won the Drivers' Championship. In 2015, we won the Team Championship. And it's a lot of hard work went into it. And it is about having the right people around you. But we, during the winter, I think we was testing out a front engine go-kart. We heard the Speedway between you and I. Well, it's not between you and I, but we thought it was derelict. We didn't even know that it was there. 3 years ago, I'd never heard of Ty Woofenden, Chris Van Stratton or BSBA or anything. I'd never heard of it. And we have been involved in motorsport most of my adult life. It's very unfortunate that it's not out there, that it's not out to the mainstream. And getting back to your question, we were testing a go-kart and then went over, paid in to watch a Sunday afternoon match. And then I think Warren went out and had a testing on the Monday or Tuesday, came back in and said, "Oh, you've got to try that." And that was it. Just went from there. We were both testing and practicing each weekend. And then Warren bought the stadium and then he turned around to me and said, "Do you fancy running the stadium?" And I was like, "No, I don't. We've just taken this place on Colin Turkington and we're going to hopefully win the championship in the touring cars." And then it was sort of agreed between us that I'll do half and half. From the minute I stepped in the Speedway Stadium, I didn't leave there until the last round of British Touring Cars, which was 9 months down the line. You can get very passionate about it. We have done. My whole family's now involved. My 12-year-old's racing. He's done the British Championship this year. It does worry me a bit. I don't know why. I've seen him doing motocross. Obviously, he's had pins through his arm at the age of 6, but it's just one of those things. My missus is now licensee down there, whereas before with the cars, I was away from home a lot. 10 race meetings, and then you had all the practices, then you had overnight when cars were smashed up, etc. So we do spend a lot of time with each other now, which I'm not sure is a good thing or bad thing. But
how does promoting the touring cars and promoting a speedway team, what's the similarities there? Can you use one to benefit the other?
There's a massive difference with the touring cars. The fans are not our job. Our job in the touring cars is to get the right drivers, to get the right car underneath them, and try and find that thousandth of a second. I don't know if you've ever seen touring cars where you've got 21 cars that have got 7/10 of a second between them. And some of the stuff, it got beyond us, way beyond us, which is why we've got Formula One mechanics and ex-Formula One managers and all that lot, and they've taken it on way further than we could. That's our job in touring cars, is to get that car faster. With Speedway, our job is the fans. and that is it. I'm very much on my formulas, and I think a lot of promoters will look at me like I'm an alien. But you've got your team, you're promoting, and your show, and that equals your gate, and that's it. It's as simple as that. And if you try and take off for one of those three, you're going to lose your gate. If you add on to the three on the left-hand side, you're going to put on your gate. It's as simple as that. I've tried to make it simple, but you know what I mean. We've also got to run to rules, finances, and it's not easy. But we made massive steps this year. And yes, we've done lots and lots of advertising around the North Circuit. We'd had billboards, bus stops, all with the lovely Eddie Kennett all over the place. And it worked. It did work. We put a very, very good team together as in a PR sense. It wasn't initially just meant to be British. We had to look at the cost of flights, the cost of vans, the cost of everything. And in doing that, then we could offer the riders a bit more pay because we didn't have the cost of flights and stuff. That was my mindset, is have UK-based people, and then we can work with them while they're here. The previous years when I was with the older promoter, and this is nothing against the overseas riders, and we really want them here, but I felt they were just turning up, doing their job and going home, and it didn't build anything for me. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
And maybe moving back towards the TV side of things, and obviously not asking you to divulge any of the ongoing contract talks or anything, but where do you think that difference comes in? I mean, I know a little bit about touring cars. You turn on a Sunday afternoon when the touring cars are at Knockholes or a local track or Donington or whatever, and it's 7 hours back-to-back coverage on ITV4 live with pundits in between the races and showing the secondary races and everything. And yet from a Speedway point of view, here we are, 4, maybe 5 months before the start of the season, scrapping about to get any kind of domestic Speedway on the TV. And what do you think is the difference in that, and why is that the case?
To be honest, this has been one of my big bugbears this last week. We should have been in place August, September. We should have tried and made a bit of competition. And this is, BT done a brilliant job this year. It was a very good show all across. But we need a bit of competition for them. We should have put it in place. We should have gone with a business plan or something to say, look, this is what we're going to do with your money. We're going to advertise across the UK, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. We're going to bring electronic timing in. We're going to try and go Monday, Wednesday, or Monday, Thursday, whichever, to try and entice these riders back. And I personally, and it will never work, but this is the way I look at it, we should have tried to get 8 GP riders and shared them. We should have worked together and shared them amongst us. And whoever had a weaker team of 6, then they get the strongest GP rider. But when you're sitting in a room with 20 odd people, it's very, very difficult to make everybody happy. And my whole thing has been, since I've been in there, is we've got to work together. And it is very, very difficult to do that.
You mentioned competition there, Steve, for the rights of it, but would there ever come a point, if the TV deal doesn't come together with BT, even though there won't be money on the table, would there be a possibility, like a in-house channel that we could put out, maybe stream over the internet or something? Because as me and Graham are only too aware, we work at Edinburgh and stuff, like how easy it is to put something like that together. It's not complicated, it's not hard, but all it takes is really a bit of imagination. Really, is that something that could be looked at? Because obviously, actually getting the product out there would be step one, really, wouldn't it?
That is the main job, is getting it out there. As I said 3 years ago, we knew nothing about it. And I'll give you a little bit of a statistic. The touring cars get about 14 million viewers over the season. Speedway gets about 450,000. So we're trying to sell that product to either get a league sponsor in or trying to get competition in. And then the only way we can do that is by pushing the show forwards, not cutting. And this is nothing against what's happened in the AGM or anything. I understand completely why everything's happened in there, but cutting isn't the answer. It's not the answer. We're not going to get people interested in us if we keep cutting the product. And I understand we can't race ourselves. We need the 8 teams in the top and the 11 in the, or 10 or whatever it is in the middle. But we would like people to come along with us and invest. And unfortunately, yes, take a gamble, but invest in riders and the show and advertising, electronic timing. I did get asked what's that going to do for the sport. And for me, it's a base. At the moment, if I go to a sponsor or whatever and they say, oh, how's the timing done? And I'm going to say, well, we've got a bloke in the referee box with a stopwatch. It's just, you know what I mean? And that it's almost laughable, but it's not. That's the fact of it is. That's what we've got. And I did try and push this in the AGM and up to the pre-AGM. I've done a lot of work around advertising around the whole of the UK. I would have had it on 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, all through the season. No matter where you was in the UK, you would have seen something to do with Speedway, whether it's a billboard, a 10-second video, in a garage forecourt, bus stops. It just would have been everywhere. And it's not silly money. And it just, you've got to start somewhere. We've got to start getting people, because it's a great sport. And going back to touring cars, and they're going to shoot me for this, but I took some of the lads to the last round, and it kind of lost its interest. You sort of watch a car, you've got to wait a minute, and then it comes around again. And this is nothing against the touring cars, but what we've got with Speedway, it's a stadium sport. It's all in front of you, and it's quite mental, really. And once you get your head around the points and that there's 7 riders against 7 riders, and it is a team sport. We run quite a few other events at the stadium. We're fortunate that we can do that. We do a lot of practice. We've built a kids track in the middle for complete novices with airbags and everything, and then they'll move on to that. And we're just trying to push it forwards all the time. And this is our outlook on it. And as I said, we're a bit disappointed, if I'm honest. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We need to push it forwards and get it out there to the mainstream and to the general public. It is a good sport. It's as simple as that. I don't know what else. I am frustrated, as you can hear in my voice.
You can.
But I'm honest with you, I haven't had a shave since I got back. I've been sat at this computer. I'm trying to do everything I can to make this look attractive, because our press day, we had more people at our press day than we did at the old Premiership meetings, and that was because of the excitement that we'd brought through the off season. And I've got to try and replicate that. And at the moment, I'm struggling. I won't. There is a positive to it. I will make it. Do you know what I mean? It's as simple as that. It's just how, what, when, where, and whatever. But I will get there, because it is a good sport. We just need to simplify it a bit and modernise it.
Perfect. I mean, that's all, fantastic. And I suppose it shows just the thought process that goes in. It's something from a fan's point of view, and maybe having done a little bit of media work behind the scenes, very little. It's the amount that goes into actually getting the product out there. It's not just a case of the gates being thrown open an hour before the start of a meeting and off you go at it. That somebody like yourself who's come into sport from a completely different background, very forward thinking, from everything you've told us, you don't do failure. All you do is success. And it sounds to me like this is going to turn into something, and Rye House will be a success in the future.
It will be, but how we're going to get there, it's going to be a little bit longer than we thought. But we will get there. We're not going to give up, and I will just keep bashing my head against that brick wall, and I will eventually get through. As I keep repeating, it's a great sport. It's in front of you, and it's a stadium sport, and we need those stadiums filled. It's as simple as that. There's no question, and there should be. I mean, the people that we've brought on this year, and I'm sure Warren in this I won't mind me saying, but we brought a lot of new people into the sport, and we're getting a younger crowd as well. We just need to keep that going.
Well, Steve, we've had quite a lot of interest via social media, so we're going to go into the fan zone now, and I can ask you a couple of questions from that.
The Fan Zone. The Fan Zone. Talk Speedway. Talk Speedway.
So the first fan zone of the Talk Speedway podcast. First question goes to Ross Bennett. He says, I think I speak for all fans here. How does a new rider to the league get a new average? Who decides, for example, what a rider such as Michael Vakulik would come in on? Not a GP rider yet, as a top 15 rider in Poland. Would just like to know how it's done.
I wouldn't like that job. There is one guy who does it. I can't mention the names. And I imagine it's very, very difficult. You've probably got 180 to 200 riders across Europe and the UK, and they're going to make mistakes. Someone's going to say they're a 9-point rider and they'll end up being 7 or what. It's not an easy job. But I'm presuming it's done on basically if they've never ridden in the UK, looking at who they ride against in Sweden or Poland and whatever, and there's similar riders that do ride over here, and I wouldn't imagine for 1 minute that's an easy job. I do know that the averages come to us and then people argue about it, mainly the people who have the assets, who've got the assets, and then you come to some kind of agreement between all of us. That is pretty much how it's done, but it is literally one guy, and then there are a couple of other people who do it as well, and they are very similar. Why one's 7 and he's not a GP rider or whatever, but he's 15. I did read that one, and he's 15th. It's just, you also got to remember they're going to be coming to new UK. Every single track is different. Yeah. So it is difficult, and I wouldn't want that job. That's basically how I can answer it.
Mark has asked, how will Rye House maintain revenues moving to an unfashionable race night from weekends, which has been a tradition down at Hodson?
We accepted last year that we wasn't going to be able to run many Saturdays. That was part of going up into the top league. We're completely in agreement with, unfortunately, it's not unfortunately, Poland at the moment are the big boys in it, and we've got to work with them, not against them. The more we work against them, the more they're going to put against us. It's just not going to work. We have got to work with them. So we knew we would be very limited on Saturdays. I think we managed to do 7 Saturdays. I have got facts and figures in front of me, and yes, Saturdays were a lot better. It's as simple as that. But it's something that we had to take, of going in the top league and getting our brand out there and our sponsors' brand out there on TV. I did go to every single away meeting, and a lot of the clubs are very, very busy on a weeknight, and we're just hoping, especially this year with these fixed race nights, if we can do 1 week on, 1 week off, 1 week on, then people know when we're racing. I haven't got to do 4 meetings in 8 days at the end of the season, and we can get regular race nights, and people know when we are racing, and not having 6-week breaks and things like that. That isn't any good for anybody. Yes, it's going to be a struggle for people to fit around it, but it's going to take time for them to get used to it as well. And I believe and hope for everybody's support. We are doing this, and we need their support as well.
Ricky Phillips has asked a couple of questions. One is, how's the Rye House team shaping up, and when will we get some news? And the other one is, has Scott Nichols signed, and if not, why?
Who's Scott Nichols?
He's given you a fair amount of stick on Twitter, our Twitter as well.
He's a great ambassador.
He's got a question for you as well, Steve, but I'm going to leave that for a wee bit.
Well, I was just about to say he's a great ambassador for the sport, but I'll probably wait till after his question. We are building a team. We are in talks, and I'll be honest with you, we are in talks with a couple of people. All of my riders at the end of the season, as I said before, know our plans. They have absolutely been brilliant. They understand what we're trying to achieve, and we're trying to cut costs without it reflecting on the fans. And they have been a great part of that. And I can't express our gratitude to those 7 either. We would love to bring in a GP rider. Whether we're going to or not, we don't know. We will try. And I've, you know what I mean? At the moment, I can't divulge too much into it. We did have a great way. It's about getting the fans excited as well. We had a great way of doing it this year. It's been nicked a little bit by other clubs, which is great. I feel that's very good of them. So I will come up with I have already got a new idea of how we're going to announce riders. But that will be we're looking at probably middle of December, if not a bit later, but it will be before Christmas.
It's funny, Ian Gibson and I think, who else was it? Jamie Brisgrove had both asked when they can expect some signings out as well. John Stewart's asked, from what I saw, Rye House attracted a fair number of away fans and neutrals last season. Won't be easy for these fans to get there on a Monday or Wednesday night. Certainly rules us out. I'm not sure where John is actually based, but is that a worry as well, because you were a weekend track, that you were getting quite a lot of away fans?
Yes, we was getting coaches coming. I was getting phone calls 2 or 3, 4 days before saying, "Can you save us a space? We're bringing a coach down." You're in a catch-22. If we want to be in the top league, we've got to grace weekdays. If we want to be in the Championship, then we can do weekends. The only problem is, as the Championship, we're going to find out this year, there's lots of people signed for Poland, and they will take priority. I worked very, very hard last year to really get around not losing riders, but you couldn't do it. It was so difficult. We was working around GPs, and also you've got to let your riders enjoy their season as well, and let them go off and do their long track or short, whatever they do. They've got to, I want them coming to our pits with a smile on their face, not get into our pits, "Oh God, I'm missing so-and-so," or whatever. You need them all happy, and you want them to be excited as well. So I worked around them all, and that's what you have to do. Not everybody agrees with me. There's a few promoters out there, you tell your riders what to do and that's it. But that's not this day and age. We work together. We are a team. And the more we work as a team, the happier we'll be. Simple as that. Wednesdays and Mondays, we'll still be doing all our bank holidays. And as I keep repeating, I just hope that we can get the backing for Wednesdays. I'm going to try and keep it simple. I'm not completely decided yet. I might let the fans have a little poll or something, but one of the days, say the Wednesdays, we'll do all our league matches on. And on the Mondays, we'll do our cup matches and rain-offs and our bank holiday meetings. That's the plan. So everybody knows exactly what, when, where, and how.
Excellent. Just a couple more to go. Steve Moore's asked, what's your views on the 8-point rider rule?
I think it's a shame. I understand why it was done. There definitely, as I said, I've read the forums. There was no malicious in it from the bottom teams or anything like that. Initially, it was sort of trying to get the teams to be very similar. So if everybody can get an 8-point rider, very much like I said earlier, if we could have all worked together and got 8 GP riders over and shared it amongst us, but that's easier said than done. Maybe a year down the line or whatever. But if everyone's got an 8-point rider, then you know pretty much everyone's going to have a very similar 6 and 7 as well. And you're trying to make the racing exciting for the fans. It's nice every now and again to win 60-30 or whatever, but you don't want to be doing that all the time. Your fans don't like it if you're doing it at home. They want to see close racing. And initially it was designed on trying to bring it closer, but I don't think it's came across as that. It's came across as cutting costs, which we're probably going to have to do. and unfair and it is very unfair on Swindon and Wolverhampton and Bellevue. They've got some big decisions to make, and it's not easy. And the problem is, well, Swindon have already done it. They've already put the world champion out. Yeah. What a shame. This is a guy who won the world championship with a broken foot, and now, unfortunately, and I understand, and if you speak to Swindon, they didn't want to do it, but this world champion also needs paying for his success as well. But it's just not in the UK. There's not that kind of money, and he deserves it. Out of anyone this year, he was the top scorer. He won the world championship. He'd done it all with injuries the whole way through, and he deserves to be paid for it. As simple as that. Do you know what I mean?
Our own Paul Griffiths has asked, how would you like to see the sport move forward in the next few years?
I think I have sort of answered that question. We would like to get it out there, get the stadiums filled, get modernised, as in electronic timing, maybe new frames, try and modernise the bikes. It has been tried with the engines, but we won't go there about these engines. And just building forward each year. And as I said, I do understand what's happened this year. I don't agree with it. I'm disappointed with it, but I completely understand what's happened. We can't have 2 or 3 teams in the top league. We need 8. Possibly, it'd be better with 10 or 12 in the top league. But it's not all teams can afford it. They can't at the gates. It's as simple as that. But I'd like to see some competition, as in we're more in a position to say, right, we'll go with this company, we'll do this, we'll do live streaming. We've got to start appealing to the electronic world, because it's not even the kids anymore, it's 30-year-olds. I lost my phone while I was in Tenerife, and it was brilliant. Absolutely, it wasn't brilliant at the time, but it made me aware of how much people are on their phones and how much we all rely on our phones. And you know what I mean, we need to grab hold of that. We need apps, proper apps, not just not just ones with data 2 or 3 days later. People want it there and then, and then they get bored of it, and then they want the next thing and the next thing. Which electronic timing, transponders, it gives you a base to work on. And then you can start building your apps, and you can get your stats immediately. And you know what I mean, and try and get back to getting these top riders over here, and making it so that they want to come over here. So we're not competing against each other, because I guarantee you this. We came out the AGM and all the riders rang up everybody. I'm not saying that's across the board, but they would have contacted all 8 teams. One would have offered them 120, one would have offered them 130, one would have offered them £150 a point or whatever, and they're going to go with the top one. It's as simple as that. We are competing against ourselves.
It's actually something that the discussion about with a rider the other day. The power seems to have shifted, because now riders seem to be. You see, it's like a trend on Twitter, social media, where riders will come out saying if anybody's looking for a 3-point rider in the championship or whatever, they're available. But that kind of puts the power in the club's hands, really, doesn't it? Where it gives them a better kind of stance before negotiating, really, doesn't it?
If you've got guys who are looking at, well, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There's not enough riders, and there's too many clubs. That is unfortunate. That is a state of speedway in the UK at the moment. There are quite a few clubs and a lot of people involved in the younger generation, but it's going to take time. We've kind of missed a group of 16 to 20-year-olds or 16 to 12-year-olds. They're just coming through now. It's going to take time, and it's going to sound really bad, but it's unfortunate. What's going to happen is whoever can hold on for that amount of time till it turns around again. If it does, and the only way it will is if we all push and make it happen. We can't sit there white knuckling it each year, just trying to get through. You've got to look forward. We've got to be planning 2-3 years down the line. And I love all of our riders, what they've done for us, and lots of riders have rang us up. But as you said, at the moment they're in the driving seat, and all it does is there's 20 odd of us sitting in a room saying yes, 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 all smiling at each other, going out the room and competing against each other for these riders. Do you know, and that's what happens. Do you know? And they will stab each other in the back to do it.
Yeah.
So, and I don't mean literally, but that's what's happening at the moment.
One last question that comes from Scott Nichols, I believe you know him. When the hell are we getting this motocross day sorted?
I don't know. I've been out with him a couple of times. He is a little bit better than me. As I said, I'm sitting at computers too much, and my waist size may have gone up a little bit in the last 2 years. But yes, I do need to get out there. And it is great that we do this with the riders. As I said, it goes back to my T plus P plus S equals the gate. The more we're working with our team and having fun with them, the better the team becomes. I won't go into, I do enduros with Stuart Robson as well. Even Edward Kennett, you know what I mean, Black. I absolutely love him. People forget about 20 minutes before we open those doors when we had the biggest crowd we've had for, I don't know if people were saying ever, but it probably wasn't ever. 20 minutes before, me and Edward Kennett was on, he was on a digger and I was on a dumper, and it was literally just before we opened it up. I'm on the phone with him daily, and most of them. Hopefully next week, tell him.
I'm sure he'll be listening.
Yeah. Once I get settled and I'm relaxed, then, well, no, that's a complete lie. Once I'm settled and relaxed and got the team in place, then we've got to get back down the stadium, get some more work done down there, and it doesn't stop. But it is enjoyable. I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy it, and we'll just keep on pushing forwards.
The Fan Zone. Talk Speedway. Talk Speedway.
I guess the last bit is for me. If I'll give you a little bit of an open platform. Was there anything else you wanted to discuss, or anything else that you wanted anyone listening to know about for 2018 coming ahead?
We'll try and make it as exciting as we did this year. As I said, I have been working we've got to entice the fans in. It's as simple as that. We can't force them in. They don't have to come in. We've got to put on a show so they want to come. Do you know what I mean? And the more we do, the better it's going to be. I keep saying it's as simple as that. It's not. But that is my only job really, is to get the fans through the gate. You know what I mean? And we need their support. Probably not just this year, but the year afterwards as well. It's going to take a little while before. No one's got a magic wand. Even ourselves, we've got lots of ideas, lots of things, but there isn't a magic wand at the moment. We need to bring on more riders. We've got to invest in the younger generation, and we've got to get it out there to the general public. And I can't stress, there is a little bubble, and it's around all motorsports. Like, if no one's ever heard of touring cars, they won't know some of the names in there. Everyone lives in their own little bubbles, but you've just got to make that bubble bigger. It's as simple as that, and which we're going to try and do. I did put a lot to the AGM. Unfortunately, it's not gone on deaf ears. A lot of people want to come on board with us, but it does look like we're going to have to do quite a lot ourselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which we're willing to do. That's it really. I'm just, how can I put this? I'm disappointed, but I will have some positive news coming. That I can assure you all. Yep.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sure Rye House fans will be delighted to hear that. Steve, as Graham says, thanks very much for joining us. You've been a fantastic guest. Hopefully you can join us later on as we get closer to the season, perhaps through the season as well, Steve.
Thank you very much for asking me.
No bother. Just before we go on the podcast, of course, we are on social media. If you would like to ask us any questions or leave questions for our guests, of course, you can get in contact through Twitter at Talk Speedway. Of course, we're on Facebook and Instagram and Talk Speedway Podcast, and you can email the show at talkspeedwaypodcast@gmail.com. Of course, you can check out our website, which is talkspeedway.co.uk. Ways to listen, if you're listening through iTunes, you can also listen through SoundCloud, YouTube, and via our website as well. And of course, you can also listen on Facebook, through our Facebook page there as well. Graham, fantastic show once again.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. These are the kind of things that the fans want to hear. You know, no one really knows what goes on inside that room, and to have somebody like Steve come on it and give us a bit of insight, for me, has been fantastic.
Absolutely brilliant. As we say, Steve, thanks very much for joining us. Until the next time, good night.
Talk Speedway. Talk Speedway.